Welcome everybody to another episode of Push to Talk. I'm here with Eric today. I believe that we will be getting Dawn jumping in as well as Dirk jumping in as well sometime soon. Maybe potentially even a couple of guests at the second half of the show. We shall see. But yeah, welcome everybody to Push to Talk. It is Saturday, the 11th of January, 2025. And it is
You're so professional.
It is red as fuck over here.
It's a little red where you are. You are a little red. I still think it's more of a Christmas red because I still see the oranginess, but hey.
I can't change that, and you know this. Like I tried to sort of color shift it a little bit to sort of make it more red, but like it immediately either shifted it to an orange or shifted it into a pink. So I'm like, I can't really change it. Like that's how it looks for whatever reason. Might need to sort of play around with my GoPro's kind of color settings potentially.
I got to clean my glasses. They're all hokey.
Maybe that's why you're seeing it orange. Hang on, you got
they're tinted.
You got a tint on it. That's probably why you're seeing it in a different color. Like you're getting an additional kind of yellowing to it, so obviously it's going to look orange.
By the way, I just got out of the shower, so my hair's all hokey. So I was like looking, I'm like, what the fuck? Man, I look like a dork. Anyway, yeah, no, without the glasses, you're still orangey in the one. Like as you go up over your left hand, up in that corner,
this side, yeah,
that side,
yeah. For whatever reason, I don't know why.
A little orange.
I think it's closest. I don't know because it's closest to the actual emitters, so it's kind of like, yeah.
I can't wait till I get my, my new background, which is I ordered back in November.
Mm-hmm.
There's a company here out of Tampa, I think, called Glance. And if you've ever seen sort of those scrolling ticker things, right?
Oh, yeah.
They used to make a little one, which was cool, but they made a big one. It's like 5 feet long. I don't know.
Ooh, okay.
10 or 12 inches wide, something like that. I'm not exactly sure. And it is half the price that you can get them from anyone else. And everybody else makes you pay $25 a month for the data feed after the first year.
Oh, fucking
okay.
Hell. Yeah, okay.
And but Glance doesn't. There's no additional fee ever, and they're half the cost. So, and they're US based company, so I'm pretty happy with that. But you have to wait because they assemble them and burn them in and all that good stuff. And
okay.
So they do have a thing, right, where kind of where your shipping is. So hopefully by the end of the month, early February, I'll have it.
Okay.
But we'll see, and that'll be my new background. See,
nice.
That'll be my new. I won't do the blackout background. I'll do the new background, and we'll figure out what we want. What what would be really cool is an API for them to pull Eve information, like big kills. That would be awesome.
That would be pretty cool. Yeah, I've done a fair few different backgrounds. Like I've had green screen backgrounds, obviously in the past, many times. Like background replacements to make it look like I'm in a very neat and tidy apartment, that kind of thing, or all sorts of different stuff. So Eve based backgrounds, obviously I've got the I've got my avatar sort of background and sort of station background that I can switch to, which is basically if I do that's my avatar and Eve hanger background, as it were. But yeah.
What does Ericks mean by a not on the show?
A newt.
Newt?
I'm neutral because I'm in the initiative. We don't technically have standings. Like, yes, well, people were concerned about the fact that the initiative were 2 blue to goons. So I've decided to like showcase the non-blue status.
I know. For those who don't get it, McLeod's never not on the show because like he's been here pretty much as long as me almost, right? I mean, yeah. I mean, we started this together back in a different name, different time.
We've gone through 2 different name changes for the show.
Yep. So yeah,
Undead Zone to the Whiskey Gaming Show to Push to Talk. You know, like
there you go.
That's the that's the genesis right there.
Yeah, we have great fun. Oh, we're at least as old as INN because I think we predate technically INN.
Yeah. And I jokingly sort of put the circa 2000 and what is it?
Whatever it was.
Stickers.
I don't know.
Circa 2016. Yeah. Because that was the first time that were like I was looking back at all the various different kind of things, various different shows when we started off Push to Talk, and I'm wondering when we started the show, like what started, the first time we did like shows together as such, Eric, because that would be like way further back. But like when we actually started Push to Talk, and I literally found a Google Doc of like developing what the show might be, and like. Yeah, that was early 2016, and then we did one of the first. I think the first show in 2016 as well. So, yeah, that's
wow.
That it's
yeah. If we go back, yeah, if we go back to like what is it, the Undead Zone, and I mean, we really go back. Holy shit!
That was quite far way back. Fucking hell, because that was when that was when we were doing stuff in Just Survive, which was the H1Z1, which was the big multiplayer version, like a long form multiplayer version of H1Z1.
Yeah,
way the fuck back. But yeah, it's been a while. Anyway, dude, how was your weekend, or how's your week been?
My week was pretty. I was a little busy with work. Pretty busy, and next couple weeks. End of the month and the first week in February, I'll be traveling around a lot. But so prepping for all that stuff. A lot of presentation to customers. But we've got my favorite Steelers. They're in a playoff game tonight at 7:30, and it's much anticipated that they'll probably lose. So. Because our coach sucks. And
hey, if you win all the time, you don't realize you never. There's a different way of describing that. It's kind of it's a weird one. It's like if you're winning all the time, you don't know what to what to improve, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, we've had okay, so a lot of us dislike the coach. But nobody will ever fire him because he hasn't had a losing season, but he also hasn't won anything with a team that he's put together. Right? So, yeah, he's a bad coach, and he's not a great guy either, Starscream. He's a bad coach. Trust me. Yeah, and then we got some crybabies.
Sorry, just responding in chat. Yeah. I hear that your PC...
Detroit, baby. Detroit's going on. You hear my PC?
I hear your PC is getting a bit of an upgrade.
That's true. So for those who don't know, I bought a Zydex PC. It was pretty expensive. It wasn't super expensive. It didn't have all the cool bent piping for like water cooling and all that stuff. I didn't want to go quite that far, but no comment. Weapons grade, no comment. What is it? So the CPU died. That's what was going on it. That's why it wouldn't boot.
Really?
The CPU died. And now remember, I ordered that in It's basically only been running for 2.5 years. I have PCs like right over here that are like 10 years old, still run, right? Windows.
Yeah.
And I've never died. AMD chips. This was an AMD chip. And it died. But and then of course, we had, I had FedEx pack it up per Zydax's instructions, because Zydax has a limited lifetime warranty. Now you can go outside the lifetime warranty and you save a whopping $50 on your build. Okay, so who's going to do that, right? $50, seriously, right? So you got a lifetime warranty. Now the bad side of that warranty is you got to pay to ship it. Okay.
Yeah.
But you ship it both ways. Okay, but you know what? I'm sitting there thinking about if I if I bought it at Best Buy or something like that, and I take it back to their techs or something like that,
Oh God, yeah.
Do they really have somebody who's really good? And I like Zydax hires good people. They know what they're doing. So anyway, sent it back just after Christmas. Of course, the holidays, they're not really going to work on it, but they were working on it last week or early this week. And they said when FedEx shipped it back, they damaged the video card. Okay. So
I mean, it's better that well, I mean, in terms of shipping, one or two things can go really wrong with the video card. Is either the video card gets damaged, or the PCI slot gets damaged, and then you have to replace the entire main board, and that sucks.
Yeah. And by the way, tech support on the phone thought the main board was what was really going, not the CPU, right?
Oh, okay.
So anyway, it was AMD Ryzen 9 5950X. That's the CPU that was in there, and it had I think it had a Radeon.
Was it 9700?
RX 9700? No, 5700 or something.
Maybe an
5900 maybe.
Oh, okay.
What did I say?
Something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad one, but since it was damaged, that's what we're going to.
Yeah. No, you're going to. Oh yeah, you're going to 79. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So I get about a 20% faster video card with 8 gig more memory.
And an XTX, which is cool.
Yeah, an XTX, RX 7900 XTX. So it's a little bit faster, that's nice. That's cool. Yeah, it was a 5950X was in there before.
Oh, right. Okay.
Oh, no, that's my CPU. Sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah, but here's the cool thing. They said, just send us the receipt that you had them pack it. Okay.
Yeah.
FedEx pack it, and we'll do the claim with FedEx. You don't have to do it. You don't have to call FedEx. You don't have to make the claim. You don't have to argue with them. We'll just get the money for them. We'll just put the card in, and off you go.
Nice.
And then I upgraded from air cooled to a what is it? An A10 or AIO, whatever they call those.
Yeah, an all in one kind of like bolt on water cooler, right? Yeah.
Yeah. 3, and they use 3 of my existing fans. And
nice.
What else was it? Oh, I had the Corsair RGB fans.
Mm-hmm.
And and one set of the LEDs just wouldn't change color with the rest. Like something was out of sync, something was wrong, right? And yeah, they just fixed that too.
Nice.
It's like, yeah, I fixed that. That's cool. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, and by the way, so I ship it back. They get it. They send me an email to call in. I call in. The guy says, I'm just a sales guy. I can't give you any details because I'm asking all these questions. He goes, in about an hour or so, I'll have the tech call you back. I'm going to do it right now. And we'll have him call you back and he'll tell you what went wrong. Because he didn't tell me about the CPU.
Yeah.
And I was telling the sales guy, I'm like, this doesn't sound like a video card issue. This, that it wouldn't boot. It was working. I don't know, right? So So I talked to the tech goes, yeah, it was a CPU issue. Put a new CPU in. I said, hey, that's air cooled. You think maybe I should liquid cool it? He goes, well, it wasn't throwing any faults historically that it was throttling down because it was too hot.
Yeah.
Okay. He goes, so it wasn't getting too hot, so you're good there. But this is what I recommend for this particular chip. One of these two coolers, right? One was 2 fans, one was 3 fans. Well, what do you think I picked, right? The 3-fan one,
of course.
Right?
if the space is available and you can get it into the chassis, 3 slot. Yeah. Or 3 fan, yeah.
Yeah, so I said, yeah, let's do that, and so we did, and I think it was like I don't know, installed. I think it was $120 for the liquid cool. I didn't think that was bad. And they would have upgraded anything I wanted. In fact, I can ship it back, and they'll do upgrades on it and ship it back to me.
That's not bad. Well, you have to pay for the shipping. Oh wait.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had. Yeah. So we just had, I just had to pay for the shipping. I had a competent guy. And by the way, one of the things the sales guy said to me, I'm going to have the tech call you back because I want you to have a good experience.
That's good.
And I was just sitting there going, I'm having a good experience. And I'm already having a good experience with you, right?
Yeah.
Now, the only bad thing about their limited warranty, let's say it was so old the CPU was not able to be gotten, or they couldn't get it was the motherboard and they didn't have the motherboard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if the motherboard that they had or the current motherboards didn't support the CPU and memory that you had, you would have had to buy that to get it fixed, right? That's the limitations of some of that warranty work.
Yeah,
but still,
you'd have to pay. You have to pay extra for the upgrade from something like that, from what you would have had to something that they can actually fit.
Yeah, okay, because they told me if it's the motherboard, that motherboard's not something they carry anymore. Right? But you can still get it, but it's not something they carry. So it would have been a conversation. Can you go order it from Newegg for me and put it in? Right, I'll pay for it. Whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, very good experience with Zydax. I really want to spend, $10,000 and buy one with like super cool liquid cooled and all the bent, solid.
Cool. Yeah.
It would be cool, but yeah, I'm not.
You can see $10,000, being spent in a slightly better way in that regard.
Little bit.
Just a tiny little bit. But like, honestly, dude, like going from what you had, which was, I mean, you got the same CPU. I think sometimes it's just like, sometimes you have those CPUs that just die. Like, they just conk out at one point. Like, whether it was a bad sort of bad batch or one from a bad batch or not, I don't know. But like, the way that AMD makes CPUs is like, essentially they make pretty much their higher spec CPU, and depending on the like the errors and the sort of like the production kind of quality, they turn off various parts of that CPU to sort of downgrade it to their lower grade kind of like CPUs and such. That's the whole chiplet kind of design aspect of what AMD kind of did with their CPUs. So when you have a lower spec one, like normally it's like a somewhat lower quality, but the idea is they turn off or they reduce the capabilities of that chip because of the quality of the build process for it. It doesn't necessarily mean that the chip is a bad, on the whole entirely bad in any way, shape, or form. It's just that there were a few kind of like build issues with just small areas of the card, and so they just essentially tie those errors, those issues off, and then sell that CPU, that that particular build at a lower price, essentially. So that's why. But hopefully you're going to get a decent a decent one that will last a fair while.
Yeah, they did say they upgraded a few drivers and some other stuff. So
okay, yeah.
So, you know, and I try and keep up with that stuff, but I was a little surprised there was any to upgrade, but okay.
Cool. Going from a graphic wise cards, like graphic card wise, going from a, what it was a 6900 XT to a 7900 XTX is like, damn, that's nice.
Yeah, I love going to Passmark and looking at the differences, right, in the performance, and it'll do a compare on them.
Yeah,
and I'm sitting there going, "Oh yeah, that's at least a 20% increase." And by the way, what I had was still rated pretty high.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think that was 50. I think at the time that might have been 50% of the PC's cost.
Yeah, bloody hell, man. I've looked at 6900 and not 6900 XTX, and they're like easily $1,000, if not more. Depending on the board maker, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, good shit.
Yeah, yeah. It was good. Yeah, it was. No, I bought it in 2020, so I got it in 2021.
Oh, okay.
I'm just looking at the receipt and when I actually got it, right? And yeah, so I got it in 2021. So it did last more than 2.5 years. So I probably got it in January of 21.
Yeah. Well,
when I built
4 years old.
Sorry, what was that doing?
The computer I built myself lasted 8 years, so
not too shabby.
With the hard drive died after 4 or 5, and you do a couple changes. Like I added more RAM when I decided to get some more. And I think I had to get a new power supply after a couple of years, but
I've seen power supplies go. Yeah, that's always a little smelly event, isn't it, when they blow?
When they finally go, yeah. The thing that kind of sucks is when you have a power supply that doesn't go itself, but like is the instigator of other things going.
Okay, yeah.
I've had that happen. So I've had a few I've had a power supply that I was rock solid. I consider to be absolutely rock solid for like almost a decade, essentially, at that time. And then like I had a few hard drives and stuff go.
Mm-hmm.
And not in the way that like regular hard drives go. Like I know that like obviously solid state drives and those sorts of ones, they tend to just bam, go straight away, right? When it's like regular sort of physical kind of spooling hard drives, they tend to sort of degrade before they go, not just go straight away. And I had a couple of hard drives literally just go like that. And it was a case of like, that isn't how those go. So I had to sort of try and figure out what the hell was going on there. And I ended up realizing that it was actually the power supply.
Oh, wow.
And so I had to replace that power supply. But like most recent power supply upgrade that I did was essentially to get a power supply that has a more modern GPU power, like plug point thing, whatever it is, for modern GPUs, rather than just like the 3-pin or the 6-pin, like the one with like this, so you can actually have the sensors for it. Specific ones, yeah. So I ended up getting an upgrade to a power supply that allows you to do that. So yeah,
gotcha.
And now I'm just sitting pretty with two PCs, a stream PC and a regular gaming PC, and I'm wondering what GPU to get, because there's fucking new GPUs coming out all over the place, and apparently a £550 or $550 GPU, like the newer GPU from Nvidia, is going to be apparently the same performance as a 4090, which I don't know about that, because there's they seem to be leaning so heavily on the what is it, the frame generation tech, which is like basically generating fake frames. And it's like, is that really the performance of the card, or is that just the performance of the AI that you're utilizing? Like, I don't know. I'm in two minds about it as to what, you know, whether that's actually just sort of fake-ish performance, like faked performance to some degree,
Okay.
or whether that's actual, like, literal raw graphics power card, like graphics power. But I don't know. I don't know whether to go NVIDIA or go to AMD. I'm thinking about probably going AMD, to be honest. Going a Radeon card.
Okay.
But we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, when you have any idea as to sort of when you're going to get those going to get that back from what are they called?
Zydax.
Zydax.
Xidax. Yeah. He seemed to intimate my tech that if I, you know, got everything to him yesterday or Thursday, which I did, he would have it built by Friday. And then I'm sure they have to do some burn-in testing and stuff like that. Yeah. So I'm hoping I get it sometime next week.
That would be nice, yeah. Lovely.
So, other than a computer, what else is going on?
Not too much. Kind of waiting a little bit on Dirk because he kind of wanted to, you know, have it like a deep and meaningful discussion on a couple of topics.
Yeah, but Dirk doesn't show up ever, you know.
Well,
He'll show up like.
He's a bit of a weenie. He's a bit of a weenie. I mean, I think we can all agree to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dirk, you know.
Well, you know, he's charging stuff up at the moment. Anyway, yes. What's up?
I went to my house for the first time, and actually went inside in a month.
Oh,
and
nice.
Got up the stairs fine. Was calling for my cats, but they didn't come out, so I didn't get to see them.
Oh.
Yeah. Because they're shy and they're used to me like sitting in my computer and just talking, and my dad was running around doing stuff in the house, which scares them. So
I gotcha.
I'm just gonna have to get dropped off and left there for a couple hours for them to come out. And then I really wanted to go to this Chinese buffet that's nearby my house that I like to go to every, you know, maybe once a month or something. So I took my dad over there for lunch.
Ah, nice.
So you can eat, like you're like on regular food and stuff now.
Yeah, I've been on regular food for a while.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Basic, I can move around pretty fine. It's just my leg is so swollen that it's pretty heavy to move. And I, you know, sit down most of the time. So I'm just
just go to one of those little Chinese massages and have them work it out for you.
If only. It's just because I have abscesses still, so my body's still fighting stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm no more IVs. They took that out this week. So
nice.
So I have nothing in me.
Good.
I am clear. So now it's just a bunch of pills.
Hi, Brand, saying that you need an exoskeleton. Like, you know.
I woke up and took 9 pills one morning.
Oh, God.
Jeez.
That sucks.
I was like, where's my pill caddy? But we just have a little Tupperware with my bottles in there.
But just make sure you're taking the right ones at the right time.
Yeah, my mom wrote on top of them. I always check them before I take anything.
Yeah, that's good.
But I don't think I would get sick unless I really, really downed a bunch of them from anything that I took.
Yeah, I guess that's true. It's somewhat difficult to OD on those sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, glad you're on the mend. And, you know, things are getting a little bit more back to normal, which is great. But yeah, like in terms of like having a big period of inactivity, like almost total inactivity, yeah, it does tend to sort of, you know, just the general lifing tends to sort of take it out of you for a little while before you're back on top of it. So like, yeah.
I mean, it's like you don't notice like that there's a difference of like you're always like, oh, I need to exercise more, and that's always true. But when you go from getting up to go to the bathroom, walking around your house normally, and that doesn't really that's you feel fine doing that, to sitting 95% of the day, and then trying to get up, it's amazing how quickly you lose your stamina.
It is, yeah. Like, I mean, I remember when I broke my foot. Like, it was very much a case of you're kind of immobilized for a little while, and then when you sort of start to sort of do just regular stuff, it's like, why is this taking more effort than it previously didn't, right? But that's just because you haven't been doing that, like, constantly day in, day out, that kind of stuff. So like, it is one of those sorts of things. You'll get back on top of it. It's all good.
Yeah, we just got home, so I'll be waddling inside.
Nice and warm.
Not really. I want the house to 76 degrees and it's 71. I'm tired of being cold. I don't want to sit there with a blanket. I want to be, like, I want to.
Yeah, you know what? Brisk posted to Facebook. I mean, he's like, picture of something, like he was taking a picture of the dog or something, or dog and cat or whatever, right? But he's in the back there on a chair with like 52 throw blankets over him. I'm like, dude, how old are you? All right. I mean, Jesus Christ. He's like, man, I need many. What did he say? I need to be covered like a Viking. He's like, I need to be covered in many furs.
See, and I was so annoyed. So we get to my house, and I have a snake, and my snake normally is, I've got a heat lamp in there for him, but he normally is in his rock cave on the other side of the tank, because my house is normally at a comfortable 72, so he's comfortable in there. And I get in the house, I'm like, gosh, my house is a little cool. And then I go upstairs and look at my snake, and he is underneath the heat lamp, just like shivering, as a shiver.
Yeah.
And I was like, and they put it down to like 68 degrees. And we're like, you guys will not freeze my snake. Turn it up now. I don't care what it costs. He needs to be comfortable. I mean, he's got a heat lamp, so he's fine. But it's like,
yeah. But even so, when you have a snake literally like trying to coil itself around a heat lamp just for the additional heat, like maybe
a little chilly.
Maybe it's a little chilly. Exactly.
He's a little chilly.
Well, I worry because the heat lamps go out, like the light bulbs usually go out after a couple weeks or months, depending upon the quality of the bulb. So I don't want to run the risk of it being a little cooler in my place than normal, and the light going out, and
then him pressuring.
The heat goes out.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that wouldn't be great.
But he was very happy to get fed today.
I was doing some conversions in terms of Fahrenheit to Celsius. I'm like, yeah, like 76 is a warm house.
That's
for
warm.
Sure.
Yeah, that's what that's what my house
72.
Used to be.
Yeah, 72 is like what I would consider to be low, like, just about comfortable. Maybe. I know people who have it like way lower. Like, I don't know, like 62, something like that. 60 to 62.
Wow, that's really kind of chilly.
I know. I'm there kind of going like, Jesus Christ, dude. Like,
I mean, we keep it, 69 unless it really gets chilly out. Then I'll up it to 72.
So I
join and then unjoin. Oh, that was Dawn.
Yeah, that was me.
All right.
What I used to do in the summer when I was in my apartment, I would just turn everything off and open the window, And once it got to 80 degrees, then I was like, okay, I'll turn the AC on.
80's a little warm for Eric, yeah.
But it feels good if you're wearing just a tank top and no pants.
Tank top and no pants. All right.
Yep. Yeah, it would feel good.
Yeah.
Especially if there's a bit of a breeze. Yeah. Right. Well, we did have a
By
bit
the way,
of a
I'm pricing out my, dream PC right now over on Zydax. I'm up to $7,778. That's all.
Fucking hell, dude.
That is all. That's all.
That's a bit pricey. That is a bit damn pricey. So I'm kind of wondering whether to sort of delay topics. As to whether I don't know whether you guys want to talk about it specifically.
We can always revisit a topic, so.
Yeah, I guess that's also kind of true. Because we had, obviously, this past week we had the December MER come out. And that is always a kind of like especially this week or these last couple of weeks, people have been, a little bit antsy about the state of the the state of the finances and the state of basically the economy in Eve. And of course the economy of Eve is like, obviously, such the most simplest of things, right? So yeah, we can kind of have a look I guess we can kind of have a bit of a peruse of the MER, right? How about that?
We can do that.
Yeah. Okay, let me just
Who's number one mining?
So MER, right? This is for December, obviously. There were some kind of interesting notes at the top of the MER, right? Which is kind of interesting. CCP is basically saying there was a request that that we look at the way the imports and exports work, right? And this is in terms of when you're looking at, say, for example, which graph would it be? Yeah, this one, like imports and exports, net exports per region, right? So this sort of thing. Basically these figures, right? Net imports, exports, and such things. Essentially what was asked was what constitutes those net imports and exports. What CCP basically said was imports and exports work by looking at the ship movements between regions. They don't count either the ship or the modules and ammo fitted to the ship, or the implants fitted to the character that's, piloting said ship between two different regions. What the import and export metrics do count are all the items in the cargo, all the items in the ship maintenance bay, or any other specialty bays. And that also includes all the assembled ships in those SMBs, the modules fitted to those assembled ships in the SMBs. And they also said that they would like to revise this is only non-assembled items that are counted in imports and exports. However, we can't, without changes in the way that we log ship movement events. This is being reviewed with the Eve development team. So basically, if you have an assembled ship in a cargo hold, it would not count that. But if that assembled ship is in a SMB, then it would count it, essentially.
So when we did all our move ops, did they not count all the freighters and everything moving around?
No, because essentially the ship that's carrying the cargo isn't counted in the import and export, because I think the idea, it seems at least, that the idea from CCP is that the imports and exports are meant to be the economic imports and exports, not the total imports and exports, because essentially the idea is if you're freightering stuff in, you're not going to be selling that freighter in that area. You're going to be taking that freighter back out to sort of move more stuff in or move stuff out, kind of thing. Like, you know, that freighter isn't an aspect of the economic buy and sell in that area. So it's just the facilitator of moving stuff. And so I think that's one of the reasons why CCP designed, or CCP set out the imports and exports to not include the ship that's being brought in and out of the various different regions. A lot of people didn't think that. A lot of people, you know, saw the sort of like, you know, they saw sort of large movements of value between regions, and corresponded those large value changes being kind of out of the blue, very not regular, as being, you know, quite clearly the movement of large amounts of military assets to basically facilitate something like, you know, an invasion or, you know, a deployment of some way, shape, or form. But in actual fact, what we did see some of that movement, but not all of that movement. So we saw some of that movement based on, you know, people moving, you know, large amounts of modules and that kind of stuff in order to actually set up like, you know, small temporary markets, that kind of thing. But the large amount of actual military movement of military assets, like, you know, specifically capital ships, weren't really taken into account with those numbers. So, you know, apparently a lot of people have been lowballing, you know, the movement or the value of the items being moved on deployments and that kind of thing. So crazy that people have been, you know, looking at something and not really getting the full kind of picture of it.
So was the goon move up even more than a quadrillion?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because all the Titans, all the Supers, all of the Dreads, all of the carriers, all of that stuff were not counted in the movement. And I believe you guys moved a lot of that stuff. I have a small inkling that you guys may have.
It is nice to know that you don't have to really factor in, oh, I moved my jump freighter back, you know, so take off 10 billion for that, you know, moving all the time.
Yeah, you would think that, like, you know, the movement of a, you know, jump freighter into a region and then back out of a region would literally nullify the value of that freighter, right? Like, hey, I guess maybe not. So the only other kind of thing that they said was regarding the economic summary, that production has stabilized. This is just their kind of notes, sort of generalized sort of notes regarding the MER, is that the production has stabilized in December after a significant increase in November. Mining value has continued its upward trajectory. Large part of this is,
or mineral price index has gone through the roof.
Yeah, it's gone even more through the roof than it was last month, I think. Large part of that upward trajectory apparently is increased ice mining driven by volatile ice storms from the Winter Nexus and the July festival event. Commodities have seen a spike in overseas personal effects because that's also part of the Winter Nexus July event. That happens every year. Like, both of those things happen every single winter Nexus and July event. Like, the annoying thing is most of the graphs that CCP shows are like a span 1 year. Apart from a few, there's a few, like, say for example that particular one, right, that spans a few years, but most span a year, right? Like 1 year.
Well, that's usually the more
1 year.
relevant information of like what's it like right now. But you can
Yeah.
always pull up the old maps and check it.
Yeah, you can go back like a year or whatever, but like, you know, most graphs, unless they're certain ones, like say for example this one, you know, are single year things. But you know, for example, the mining, you know, the mined over time goes to January. You know, it's just the December kind of asteroid mining, gas volume mined. You know, moon materials down to May. You know, that kind of stuff, right? Like it's mostly based on this year and this year alone. So it's kind of like you don't get to sort of see, you get like this tiny little inkling, like you get like this little bit right at the end, right in January. You kind of see that there's this sort of like, you know, ramp down at the very start of January, as sort of like an indicator. And that is basically just the very, very tail end of last year's version of that.
Is ice included in the mineral price index?
I believe it is.
Weird. It's not a rock.
Yeah. Well, you know, hang on. We can tell you exactly what it is because there's a decomposition of MPIs. So MPI is low end and high end minerals. In actual fact, no, it doesn't. Because there is ice and ice products like there. And it is technically not included. So you guys can all see that. You can see that like this is the decomposition of the MPI, right? So this is the basket. What is referred to as the basket, right? This is the basket. And so the basket is essentially what makes up what this MPI is, what contributes to where this graph goes, and how this graph increases and decreases. And so you have here low-end minerals and high-end minerals. And you can see that the grayed out, or sort of like, you know, the non sort of highlighted aspects, and in those non-highlighted ones are ice products and ice, right?
Mm-hmm. I can't see what you're, but, you know.
Okay, well, you know, I'm just describing it to you in that regard, right?
Can you go to the ore mining chart and show how goons are better than everybody else?
Well, I just wanted to quickly kind of go. I wanted to quickly kind of show that, like, you know, clearly ice isn't in this basket, right? And this is the MPI, right? So, and this graph here, the economic indices since 2016 shows the MPI and the price index going up like a motherfucker. This is a delta 26.3%. Delta is obviously the sort of, you know, Greek letter of the Roman alphabet, but basically change, right? Delta is change essentially. And so the change is up 26.3%, right? CCP, as you just heard recently, would have you know that a large part of the mining value continuing its upward trajectory is an increase in ice mining. But their own stated graphs, you know, show the MPI doesn't include ice.
Why would the MPI go up with more ice being mined?
It shouldn't, because ice isn't part of the bucket. Ice.
Well, I mean, even if it was, let's say it was, if there's more ice available, wouldn't the price start going down?
Exactly. You know, if people mined more ice, then there would be a large abundance of ice on the market, which would mean that people would not need to charge more for it. They would charge less of it because you'd want to be shifting it. So
maybe they mean that more people were mining ice and not mining minerals. So that's why it went up.
I mean, it's possible, maybe.
Yeah, but most of the people doing the ice mining are fucking high-sec puppies. how much are they changing the mineral market? I mean, they're mining Veldspar, Scordite. That's mainly it. And Pyrexers.
But we can
I don't
actually have a
know
look
how
at this. Like
popular.
we can go. I mean, you see the ice volume has obviously increased like a motherfucker over the last, in December, right? You can see that in the graph, right? Low sec, null sec, and high sec. Like generally throughout the year, you can see that like it says that there is an orange low sec mined kind of bit, but you don't see it until you get to December, in which case you actually do see that there is a yellow section of that graph, which I always find quite funny.
It's a itty bitty line, and then it starts expanding a little bit.
But asteroid ore volume, honestly, when I look at the asteroid ore volume, I mean it's lower than it was in November, but November had like a bit of a peak and a trough, like, but it's not significantly lower. Like it's still, November still has a larger amount of regular ore mining than October, for example. You can kind of see it. Like, October. So this is December, November, and October, right? So you have October basically fairly low, then November kind of like you get this peak up to like this peak in sort of like mid November, and then it kind of sort of starts to fall away towards November towards December. But December isn't like down to October levels. It's kind of midway between. So it's not like there's a massive sudden downward trend in asteroid ore volume mined. Especially when you consider how much ice mining suddenly ramped up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't think I'm fully in any way fully committed to the idea that the MPI went up because of ice mining, as CCP may say.
Yeah. I just wish CCP would stop making new ores and just, fix the ones we already have and use them.
I mean, there's a lot of issue with ore in the game at the moment.
Because all the new ones they made are trash.
Oh, the new various ores that you have to that have different compositions than previously.
Yeah, and that are, here's the the Mexilon ore that is the predominant one from the Sov Hub upgrade, and the rocks are tiny still, and when you reprocess it, it's just not really that much, and you're like looking around like, what was the point?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find the names of all the new ores. So
oh, there's Grimier.
Oh yeah, Grimier deposits, Calyxium, Eugenites, Moridunum, and Hazarime. Yeah, those must.
Mm-hmm. They're just stupid. It's like you already have all the ores, just put a colossal belt back as it was.
I see there's a very scientific and rigorously data driven reason for the respawn time, right?
The 4 hours and 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, okay, I'd rather just be 4 hours, but okay.
Is it just
Yeah,
memes? It's just memes. Like
no one ever believes me.
Like,
no one believes me about it. They're like, "What's the respawn timer? 4 hours 20 minutes." They're like, "Okay, ha ha ha." But what's the real one? I'm like, no, that's really it.
That makes me despair, to be completely honest. Because like,
no, you know what would be a real meme? Hold on, McLeod. A real meme would be if each belt had 69 rocks in it.
Yeah.
Each build is 69 rocks, no matter what. The respawn's at 420.
Yeah, that would, or you know, although sort of in a very casual kind of sense, right? You know, you could kind of be like, oh, they're just having some fun, right? But like, this is the input to, you know, allowing the entire simulation to carry on existing as such. You know, you don't meme around with this shit. Like this shit kind of basically determines whether people actually feel like they're sort of like what they get up to in the game is kind of worth something or not. I don't like this is the shit that I don't think like you there's so many different areas in this game that you have the sort of like the like the kind of the space to be able to meme around with that kind of stuff. But like this stuff, this like core component of the simulation is not the area where you should be fucking memeing around with this shit.
Yeah, well, the developers wanted to have, you know, try to give us a laugh instead of good ores and good mining sites. Details here.
There's so many different ways you can make a joke rather than this. Fucking Jesus Christ. I didn't realize this. I didn't realize this literally until today. Like, fucking hell. This like, I don't know if there's any CCP developer ever like that's listening to this in any way, shape, or form. This is what makes me despair about the future of the game, is when shit like this is taken so casually. Yeah, that's this concerns me.
All right, well, I have to go to my meeting. Have fun.
Okay, enjoy your meeting.
I shall. I will be the focus of the meeting. Ah,
very nice. Okay.
Why are you the focus of the meeting?
because we had Locust this weekend, and it went well. So we're going to probably talk about it for a little while.
Cool. Excellent.
Okay.
So, anyways, you guys have a good day.
You too.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.
We are on a sort of like a we've got about 2.5 minutes on sort of like a break, like basically our mid show sort of like break, as it were. So you know, thank you very much anybody who's listening to this right now, because obviously you guys are subscribers, that is, not submissives, subscribers, and we thank you very much for that.
Scary that your mind went right there.
Well, I didn't want to be derogatory to our subscribers. That's the reason why. But yeah, so a little teaser for our subscribers. Mm-hmm. when I don't have something in my throat there. So second half of the show, hopefully when Dirk gets here, is we're going to be talking about yes, we have show notes. We're going to be talking about these sorts of things. We're going to be talking finances and debts, deep dive. There was a Reddit thread that this is the topic specifically that that Dirk wants to talk about as such. We're also going to go into whether if you had to choose whether you wanted to delete Pochven or delete multiboxing. We'll go and have a little chat about that as well. We kind of, we touched on the December MER. There's a few other kind of things, obviously, that we can talk about, and it's been discussed in Reddit as well. And then there's a few fun topics and that kind of thing, right? So, a little kind of preview for our subscribers as to, what we'll be talking about, and potentially we might actually get even a couple of guests on the show, because I feel that there may be a couple of people who might want to have a little conversation about that sort of stuff. Depending on, certain things. I think there's a cyno vigil going on at the moment, and I believe both of them are attending that right now. So, if you guys didn't see, there was just check. It's probably going to be on the top for this week's subreddit, which is that the leader of Bandalogs, a guy called Wayne, he passed away, and there's a cyno vigil going on at the moment. There was also a guy called Lapsh who passed away as well. There's also, I think there's a cyno vigil. I don't know where that's going on, but I believe that's a more recent one. So I think they might have not set up a cyno vigil until maybe sometime next week. I'm not entirely certain, but I'll give, if and when we find out information about that, we'll let you know. That might be next weekend. I don't know. We'll see with that. But I do believe that there is a cyno vigil going on, and we have potentially Opus and potentially Drake kind of on the show a little later on, after they've kind of finished attending those cyno vigils. But like I'm obviously not going to rush them in any way, shape, or form for that, because that's a very important thing to do. Anyway. Yeah. What's your take on the like state of affairs on the MER? Like, how are you feeling with that, Eric?
I haven't. I'll give you an honest opinion. I have not thought about the MER in as much detail as we used to when Riv and I used to go over it. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think when we look at the game in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a game that I want to play as a player, right, is I like a game where it's a little easier to get resources. They're a little more abundant, and I can build big ships and have giant battles and not give a shit. Yeah. And then I'm going to go back and build my ships back. It is less for me about the containment. I think what CCP is trying to do by limiting all this stuff, they're trying to contain the big block so that they don't just take over and ruin the game in their mind, whether that's true or false, right? In my mind as a player, I just want big fights with big ships.
Yeah, exactly. I think right? Most people do. Like,
yeah, well, because actually, when you've had players that have been around a long time, they've got a lot of freaking skills.
Yeah, and
they don't want to fly little ships, because I've trained all these skills to fly the big ships. So I want big ships. I want giant Titan battles because they're fun.
Well, you want giant Titan battles because it feels meaningful, right? And that's the thing.
Yeah.
And it's a case of like, it's not a case of like your ship is fine and then your ship is gone. Like you have a bit of agency in terms of how well your ship kind of like, how you have a bit of agency, but also you have a bit of collective agency as well. Like in your group, in your org, and in your like FCs as such. Like, because I'm there thinking to myself like there's definitely a group of people who like big fights with big ships. There's also a group of people who, very much enjoy piloting their ship in a very, very in a very manual kind of way, and those are the people who are very much into, the alliance tournament stuff, small gang stuff, that kind of thing, right? And very much into, small, extremely capable, extremely expensive ships, like the alliance tournament kind of like prize ships, that sort of stuff, right? Those can be extremely expensive, but those can also be in the wrong situation, or if a situation suddenly presents itself that you weren't expecting, can be gone in an absolute flash, right? Like you can literally just,
right,
in the wrong, at the wrong moment with the wrong scenario, 3 fucking tornadoes dropping out of warp and insta like targeting you, you're fucking gone. Right, like for a lot of prize tournament ships, that kind of thing, and that'll be a lot of ISK, a lot of money just vaporized, as it were. Some people that's a thrill. To some people, it's not a thrill. To me, it feels a little bit kind of shitty because like that's not something that I could control. And that's not something that I have any kind of agency of. So like when I look at the amount of money that those ships cost, like I would like to have a bit more agency in terms of whether I die or not. You know, I should have some degree of say in how I die in that regard. And that's kind of why I understand more about the fighting with larger ships side of thing. But there is also that level of agency that like you're not truly piloting your ship that in any significantly kind of visceral way that like you would a smaller ship. You have more stock in it in terms of like you have more stock in both your kind of group and where your group decides that like this is where we're going to make our fight, right? So
simply don't die.
yeah.
I don't mind dying in the big ships and all that stuff. It's now with all the scarcity that they've done over the years and the lack of minerals and things like that now, it just makes it harder to replace them. So now we don't really let them be blown up as much, right? And
yeah, that's the problem. It with minerals scarce as they are, and the prices, showcasing how scarce they are as well. It is very much a case of like, although we have the capacity to be able to potentially build them, we don't have the capacity like to be able to mine the materials for it anywhere near as fast as we used to, like to be able to
and
to replace them. So
and I know the goal is always to contain the larger blocks, but what the scarcity hurts the smaller entities far more than the larger blocks, right? Over time, we will build up a vast reserve of these ships because we have people who will go out and mine and do things because a bigger group has a diversity of desires in the game, right? And where smaller groups, they've really got to concentrate and put an effort forward to even get a few, and that's hard.
Well, they have to concentrate on higher like higher value income sources because they can't have half or 2/3 of their player base just out mining, like low end materials, right? Because that's not conducive to. That's not a good use of their time, right? So they have to do something that is a higher value in order to take that value and basically go and trade that value for a lot of the stuff that they don't have the time and the amount and the sort of large workforce to be able to kind of do themselves, right?
Yeah. And by the way, to first time chatter out there, failing TV, the toxicness and hatred between Horde, PanFam, Goons, Imperium, all that. He really enjoys the big wars and big fights that we have. Yeah. I look at, the toxicity, right? I don't see it and I don't really acknowledge it at the line member where I operate level, right? I mean, I don't really care. It's, anything that I say in chat and all that bullshit, it's just bullshit, right? But like when Mittens was here, I loved when Mittens was here and he just, go as a firebrand and go completely unhinged against everybody and all this stuff. When the leaders do it, you have to understand they don't necessarily, sometimes they believe it, but they don't necessarily believe it, right? Some of it is just to fire us up as line members and keep us coming back for more.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And get us excited, right? And being a leader. So
it's a rallying cry, right?
Yeah. So I don't see it as true toxicity, right?
Yeah.
Right. And I see it as more, okay, we're going to pretend we're toxic assholes, right? We're going to pretend we're toxic assholes because in real life, you know, we probably, because I've seen it, right? You go to Vegas or whatever, and this is your enemy, and you're sitting next to him at the bar doing shots, and you're each taking turns buying shots, right? You don't give a shit. Y'all play Eve. Okay. You know, in the game, we fight each other. We do all that bullshit. But, you know, when we're actually really together in real life, it doesn't really care. You know?
Yeah.
And Drake's here.
Hello,
Drake.
how's my mic?
Hey, buddy. How you doing? Yeah, your mic sounds fine.
So we messed up. We didn't realize it was conflicting with the vigil.
Hey, no, dude. Do not
It's
worry.
all good.
Do not worry. You don't have to apologize for attending a vigil. Like, that is totally cool. Like, you know, I just hope it went off well, and you know, everybody, you know, had a good time, kind of. Okay, you know, sort of throwing off fireworks and all that kind of jazz, right? And,
Yeah, no, it was nice. It was just the 1 year anniversary to a Leonidas 65 who died a year ago.
okay.
And if anyone wants to come and shoot us, we're doing a vigil roam in Pochven at the moment.
We go. Oh, okay, that's nice.
You know, and in all the games I've played, I really only see this to this degree in Eve. You know,
like
I mean, I play a lot of video games.
Respect for people passing, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and the, you know, we played this game for decades, right? So we have people really passing who continue to play the game and have played the game. It's just, I think it's one of the more unique things of Eve.
It's because it's a singular sandbox, I think. Like, you know, you have a lot of, obviously, you have a lot of MMOs out there, but a lot of MMOs are sharded off to here, there, and everywhere. And, you know, a lot of MMOs are sharded off to different regions. So you have like the North American region, you have the European region, you have the Southeast Asian region, that kind of stuff, right? You know, you have all these various different regions that have, you know, maybe playing the same game, but have slightly different kind of things happening and slightly different kind of, you know, what constitutes kind of celebrities in their own kind of areas, right? Like each one is slightly different. And so you don't have this sort of shared thing throughout everybody who's playing the same game. Whereas in Eve, you do. So, you know, in Eve, it's one of these interesting kind of things where like you matter as an individual a lot more in Eve than you would in some other random MMO that is sharded off like crazy. Because
I would say it's also because Eve is, because everything that happens in game is permanent. Like you lose a ship, it is gone. That specific ship is gone. There's actual struggle in the game. So the bonds that are formed between friends and enemies and rivals is actually a lot stronger than basically any other game.
No, that is very true.
Yeah, and while you don't like to see it, it's one of the awesome things about Eve, right?
It is.
I mean, I mean, I don't delete emails like ever if I don't have to. Terrible. I'm a horrible person because I don't. But I was looking at my sent items, right? And I, you know, an account I hadn't logged in. Google said you need to log into this account, right? And I hadn't logged into this account in a long time. It was for my old corporation. And I just happened to click on the sent emails, and I looked, and it's when I sent an email to the Space Pope to ask for our old CEO at the time. He passed away, and asked for, you know, them to light a candle up there on the memorial. It's just weird that, you know, like yesterday, right? I saw this, you know, thought about that guy, and you know, because had played for probably 10 years, played Eve with him, and you know, it's really, you know, you form friendships in Eve that I just don't think you do in other gaming platforms. I mean, not that it doesn't happen, but I just think it happens more often and more deeply in Eve. I think that's a tribute to the people who play Eve.
Yeah, and Drake, as you said, you know, a lot of it's sort of born out of this sort of like struggling together, you know, sort of aspect of Eve where loss is a real thing. And that there's a lot of game developers who, you know, may look at making an MMO and kind of look at the idea of actually having like real loss in their ecosystems and stuff like that, and shy away from it because it's just like it would seem too distressing or too hardcore for, you know, new players to come in and have to deal with. And it's like, there's another side, there's a flip side to that coin. that a lot of developers or a lot of people don't seem to see.
Yeah, well, I think it's hard.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Drake.
I was just going to say, it depends on the time frame that developers are looking, because most games now are like, say, 5-year time frame live service, milk the player base as much as possible in terms of monetization without pissing them off, and then move on to the next thing. Like, you'll move on to the sequel of the MMO or something like that.
Yeah.
No games at the moment are doing MMOs because it's such a what would you say? It's such a
it's a commitment to a big commitment to persistence, right? That level.
Yeah. And it's been done so many times, and there have been so many recent MMOs and non-recent MMOs that have tried really hard to start up and then immediately died simply because they didn't have either the player base was already doing something similar in a different MMO that's already established, or it just didn't get the it just didn't have the wow factor that kept people together.
Yeah, you need to have that kind of secret sauce that really keeps people invested into or interested to the point where they are like well invested in, right? Because I think there's a lot of people who, may talk about sort of like, the amount of investment that they have in Eve as like a sort of off the cuff kind of thing. But I think there's a lot of people stick with Eve and stick with a lot of long-term MMOs that have been around for a long period of time because they've had so much investment in there, and not just simply, the amount of money that they've had for like, that they put into the game for, subscriptions, that kind of thing, but like just in terms of emotional investment and in terms of like effort, right, and time that they put into the game. One of the strange things is like, I don't know whether it's like whether it's that or whether it's habit or like a mixture of both. It probably is sort of a mixture of both. But like I find myself more regularly going back to sort of like, if I do want to sort of play FPS games, to sort of play FPS games that I've had around rather than like brand new fresh ones. I tend to sort of go back playing, a few rounds of PUBG rather than going and playing, say like some new like say Marvel's Heroes, for example, right? Something like that. And I don't know whether that's like a mixture of just habit or whether that is like a degree of investment, like emotional and effort-based investment, right?
Yeah. Hirebrain just said something about EverQuest 1. I'm just like, are those servers still running? I've never played EverQuest, to be honest.
Apparently, maybe. If people are still playing EverQuest 1, then there must be like open servers to be able to facilitate that. But yeah.
Yeah,
fucking
they are.
hell.
Yeah.
Jesus. All right.
Yeah, I will tend to play older games before I'll play newer games.
Well, yeah.
Go ahead.
There's still Ultimate Online servers. Fucking hell, Jesus Christ.
Oh man.
So, despite Dirk not being here yet, he's apparently like, I don't know what the fuck's up with that with him. But with Drake being here, I think we need to get on with the particular topic that I think Drake is probably here to want to talk on, at least, which is the if I actually can queue up the relevant goddamn Reddit thread. Let me just fucking work this out. There we go. There's the transition. If you had to choose one, do you delete Pochven or do you delete multiboxing?
I think I'm a little bit biased here, but I would probably delete multiboxing.
However, you go about
the real answer is you can't do that. Ignoring the fact, sorry, I'm like mid fighting a billion Lokis in the moment. We just killed them.
It's all right. It's all good. I can kind of do a little bit of a TLDR if you want, like while you're doing that.
Sure.
So the idea is essentially, I mean, it's brought about somewhat on on the grounds of like people's ideas, people's sort of opinions on how much money Pochven has kind of been pushing into the economy versus how much money multi-boxing has been able to sort of basically screw around with the economy of EVE. Recently, especially with the MER coming out for December, you can literally see, and we can go to it in actual fact, and show that in actual fact, Pochven isn't putting into the EVE ecosystem anywhere near as much money as it was.
Yeah. So and also just before we go on that, so everyone's seen 6.2 trillion. That's not the real amount. The amount is a roughly 10.31 trillion. So the changes that we got in before the new year it's now a 60-40 split. Sorry, 1 second. Just changing targets. I've killed 3 Loki so far. Get fucked.
Nice.
So it's a 60-40 split on commodities and straight ISK injection. The reason we did that is simply to encourage hunting of people. So you can't simply, you do the site, you secure the site, and that's it. You're off scot-free.
Yeah, you have all the money. Nobody can steal that money off you.
Yeah, exactly.
In essence, you basically say that money is still there, but it's in the cargo hold, and somebody can intercept that and either steal it or just destroy it.
Yeah, and it would be nice to do like 100%, but like that really fucks over like 100% commodity, because that really fucks over non-multi boxes.
Okay, yeah, no, that makes sense because it becomes a lot harder.
Because at the end of the day, like it's very hard. Like with the World Arc Flashpoint, it's a little bit of money, but it's the majority of the loot is in items. And how do you split that between multiple different people? It is a massive pain.
But the other kind of thing is that is not money being directly pushed into the game.
Yeah.
That is not money just being willed into existence by the development, like by the the ones and zeros of the game, basically going, there was where there was no money, there is now money, right? This is basically these are items, and items aren't specifically money in any way, shape, or form. But what happens is, somebody goes and sells, and that money isn't just made, that is just money that's shifted around in the economy, essentially. Yeah.
And it's definitely something that needs to happen more in the economy just overall. Because we just have way too many forces at the moment. Pochven's gone down simply because it's getting reworked a lot. I will say that I'm very limited on what I say because I'm under the NDA now and I know what's coming.
I totally understand that, dude. Make sure that you don't.
My intention is to bring some of this money back. The idea that I've been saying for a long time is I want to bring money out of the OBS and into other areas, because the other areas in Pochven are basically a joke.
It is essentially like, this is the only thing that you really need to care about. Everything else, like, there's no point doing it whatsoever. And when you have that situation, you don't have that diversity, then you I mean,
exactly. And we saw this
basically dilutes the experience and the enjoyment of like anything, really. Like if it's just, lack of diversity means that like it's just, less fun overall in general.
Yeah, and it's something we saw as well, which was a big problem with Pochven back in December 2022, if I recall, where basically a CCP dev found a bug which had always existed in Pochven, which was that the respawn time on the OBS was straight away. So they changed it to what it should have been.
Yeah.
And the end result was the region instantly died overnight. The money didn't drop perfectly. Like, it didn't drop all the way.
No.
But the amount of people it went to it went to like 3 multi-boxes. Also, I'm dying.
Oh,
yeah, kill the fly catcher. It's fine. It's just a throwaway exec navy.
Okay, so it's not your Cobra.
No, not Cobra. Python.
Python, sorry. Bad.
But it basically went to one of 3 multi-boxes. So it went down to about, I think it was 4 to 5 trillion printed, but it was only going to 3 people. It was far more cancerous than before, and the destruction went way down. So it basically became my project just to get it into
Triglavian,
a healthy state.
Triglavian invasions kind of sinks and forces went down, like, very notably in December 2022. Of course, commodities went up quite a bit, but like, even so, like, if even with that kind of drop, that amount of money basically being split by the very, very few amount of people is a sizable amount of money. But that is intriguing.
Yeah. So just as like a quick history of Pochven. So after a few months, we got that reduced to 35 minutes, which I said wasn't going to help. And sure enough, it just made the 3 multi-boxes even richer, and no one else came into the region. And then once we finally got it back to instant respawn, it made it more healthy, but kind of the damage had been done, and this is where we saw the Marauder, the 1 bill Marauder, buffer Marauder multi-box meta appear.
Yeah, and then that slowly ramped up as more people got invested into that.
Which is why you saw, this is why the force went higher and higher and higher. The destruction went higher as well, but because the Marauders were so cheap that
you got that classic case of, you got that classic kind of, in this little microcosm of like Pochven, you got basically the same sort of situation that we had in nullsec with like mining. Like, they nerfed mining a bit more, but like essentially at that point, the people who had been mining in like big raw cores, that kind of thing, had made so much money that they could just buy a second raw core or a third raw core to just basically keep on going.
Because whaling was good, but the money was so high that no one cared.
No one cared, because it was a case of, oh, you killed 2 of my my raw cores. Boo hoo! I've got 5 of them. I've got stacks of raw cores to, I'll just take another raw core off the top of the stack, right? Like, that was kind of essentially what happened, and that's kind of what's happening
because by nature of the raw cores, the mining was so high that you just had infinite raw cores on demand. Not infinite, but the amount you could produce was so high.
I don't consider myself a miner. I wasn't even a miner in like, any sort of, sense of the word, in terms of like, I never used to sort of, specifically go, oh, I think I'll make some money, let's go mining. There was very much a case of like, if I wanted to make some money, I'd go ratting. I would, but even as a non-miner myself, I had like 4 raw cores myself easily.
I also would equate the buffer Marauder meta in Pochven as it was before the Revenant changes, kind of to a microcosm of the Rorqual era, because Rorquals were almost infinitely scalable. The money was insane, and you had almost infinite, losing stuff didn't matter. It was the same. People were pumping out Marauders so fast because they were relatively easy to produce, even though Isogen was a problem. Because Marauders were so good, people were reducing them en masse. So the people using them could buy them en masse. The money didn't matter. And Marauders were nearly infinitely scalable inside Pochven.
Yeah, you didn't have to build them yourself. Yeah. People were building them because there was such a market for them.
Yeah, and people were buying them. Like when the Revenant changes came out, the first thing we saw were sales ads of someone sold, I think, 1,600 Marauders. You put up a sell order for 1,600 Marauders, like not on the market, but just like, I'm selling all these for cheap, $1 bill each, because that's the sort of like investment they were doing.
Fucking hell, that's insane.
Yeah, but it is a lot more. In fact, I can probably show you some data that I have that shows the meta we have in Pochven now.
Okay.
If I can find it. I am docked now. Somehow I got out unscathed.
Well done, dude. Well done.
In-haul was pretty good.
Fuck yeah.
All right.
Utilizing that ship to its fullest extent.
This isn't the part. This is just a Navy exec. But
Yeah, but even so, you're getting out in Hull is kind of like where you want to be. It's a bit sort of, close to cool, but that's how it is. But interesting that that you said that like a lot of the sort of value in Pochven is now kind of moved over into the commodities market, which kind of makes sense when you look at it from a graph form, right?
Yeah, I also want to change the MER a little bit. I've not been successful on the CSM side to get it so I can track the commodities perfectly, because right now it's lumped in with red data from Abyssal Loot.
Yeah,
which is not good.
One of the things with that is like the thing that I always have a little bit of concern of when it comes to sort of CCP changing, what is and isn't in, showcased in the data in the MER is like changing what a metric is without like having a note saying, this metric has been changed from this to this.
Yeah.
Because then, months or years down the line, when people look at the data in the MER, they'll look at something changing and they'll have no idea as to why it changed, how it changed, and they'll look at some other aspects of the data that they have, and they'll not be able to infer what actually happened there was that CCP just went in and, augmented or changed or like removed something that was in that part of the data versus, prior when it was in.
And it's hard enough if you're looking in on the MER and you don't have any context to what things are, you won't know like the minutiae of why it's like that. Like a lot of people are saying the commodities market right now is really high, and someone mentioned that it was just because of the winter nexus, and it kind of was, but it was also at the start of the tail end of November and the start of December, where people still selling stuff from the lock breaker event, which was also a part of the commodities sale.
Intriguing.
So it's kind of hard to see that because the commodities market isn't, the data that we get in the data dump isn't perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's the same thing with the Pochven thing. People were saying it's down to 6.2 trill. And like, I would love to say that I would love people to get off Pochven's back to say that it's the sole issue in the economy, which it isn't. It was a big chunk of it, but but at the same time, I don't want to lie and say it's down. It's down over two-thirds.
It's down 3/4, 2/3 to 3/4. Like
it's down about half now. And it is likely going to go up because the reason why, like, I do my Pochven write-up each month. I didn't get to do it this week. I have done it in a Discord, but I've not done it on Reddit. It's down about 30%. The main reason is Big Av have left the region almost entirely now because they're sick of getting blobbed. And it's mainly blobbed by people who in the past have cheated loads and have been banned over and over again. So they're kind of burnt out, and they've gone to low sec and null sec, and they're doing capital stuff at the moment and blob stuff. They may come back. I know the two groups have come back in January, so I think it's going to pick up again.
And that's another aspect of like, context, right? That if you've lived it, then you know it. But if you don't and you're just looking at data, you have no idea, right? Like, oh, it's the Triglavian invasion forces are down. Oh, it must be down to changes in the game, etc., etc. No, it's down to a large group that used to be doing a bunch of it, like literally leaving the region.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I'm expecting it to pick up, and then in the long term, like what I want to do is, sorry, I got a bit sidetracked during that fight.
No worries.
Now that we've brought the force it down a lot, there's two things I want to do, which I can't say if that's happening. It's not something I've spoken with CCP about in great depth yet.
Totally fine, dude.
But eventually I do want to, if I get the opportunity, is one, move some of the money that was in the OBS to the smaller sites, because the smaller sites right now is you do them for standings or that's it. You don't do them for anything else. The only one that's worth doing is the Stellar deployment, which you can do solo, and you can get about 300 mil an hour solo. You need a fairly blingy ship to do that, and most of that is in LP, so it's decent at not being an ISK faucet. but the other sites, there's no small gang sites to bring like micro gangs into Pochven. I want to encourage that. So then you've got multiple schools of fish, as it were, a size of schools of fish.
No, that sounds cool.
Disrupt and hunt each other.
Yeah.
And then all further down the line, I want the LP stores to not be a joke, because the LP store is probably the worst LP store in the game. I think I've got a report somewhere. I'll have to find it for you. But aside from certain blueprints, everything in the LP store is either unable to be purchased because items that drop for them, the items that are needed for them don't exist, they don't drop, or you can get them cheaper on the Iddon.com LP store.
Which seems so counterintuitive.
Yeah, it's kind of stupid. So I want to overhaul that, but that is a lot of work.
Yeah.
And there's things that we can do in there, hopefully, if CCP listen to me.
Well, I hope they do, dude. But like,
yeah.
Unfortunately, history isn't on your side in that regard. But maybe,
honestly, as soon as I got selected as CSM, I got a load of people saying, have fun getting frustrated with nothing happening. But the thing they didn't know was I'd already been working with CCP
I guess that's true,
on the Revenant expansion, because I knew the Pochven changes were coming.
Oh, okay.
So because Pochven changes were coming, I've managed to springboard and I've got a lot of stuff done. And I can say I've got permission to say this. I can't say when it's coming. There is more Pochven stuff coming. I can't say what it is.
But there is
I can't
coming.
say when. Yeah. So I've been able to get a lot of stuff done.
That's good, dude.
The Christmas period has delayed it somewhat, which is kind of obvious. It'll delay everything. But it was quite funny seeing who was it? It was Oz.
Oh yeah.
Someone asked him about the Pochven changes that Drake was doing, and he genuinely didn't believe that I was behind it because it was so fast. And I was like, no, and he was like, oh, that's sick.
It's like I've been doing a fair amount of work in the background before this, like to facilitate this. So that's why it's kind
which is fair enough, because he didn't know, because it was basically like
you think
the moment I signed the NDA. I think it was 2 days after the NDA was signed, we got the patch notes out, and people were like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I did. I was one of the people who were like, what the fuck? So, count me in that for sure. Because I was very much there kind of going, wow, those were fast changes that Drake kind of spearheaded in some way, shape, or form. I don't know how he did that so
I would
quickly.
like to say that I got all those changes in 2 days of signing the NDA, but it was weeks worth of work on top of years worth of trying to get into a place where we could get those changes in.
Well, I mean, I feel like that's the hard graft that like a lot of people think that they can only do once they're a member of the CSM, right? Is doing the doing the sort of like the grind of getting people on your side and getting the kind of like the explanations of the situation and getting members of the CCP on your side as to understanding quite what's going on, right?
Yeah, if I hadn't done, I say myself, it was a lot of people. If myself and the Pochven community hadn't done a lot of the work beforehand, before my time, before me doing the roundtable and stuff, people asking for things like that and talking with CCP, they weren't successful, but they got the ball rolling. Then there was the first roundtable, which I was a part of, which was what fixed seagulling. They fixed it in a way that I had to also fix it, which didn't make it worse, because this is years ago, but they basically made seagulling worse. Thankfully, Sissy was open back then, and I could prove that it was worse, so they fixed it right before the patch went out. That would have probably killed Pochven. And then later on, we had the second roundtable, which is the one I head, and we've got a few changes in here and there over a few years. But because CCP has respected how that's been run, that had laid the groundwork for me to hit the ground running when I got selected as CSM. So I've been very busy, but I've also been very lucky in that a lot of things have come together to enable me to hit the ground running, like get stuff in so fast.
Hey, fortune favors the prepared, right? So
I guess I'll explain the things I've linked to you. So the graph that's on the screen at the moment. So this is going back to just before, like halfway through December 22. So the blue bar coming in from the top is the faucet in trillions. The red bar coming from the top is destruction. And that blue line going up and down on the green one. The blue line is the one you want to see. That is the ratio between the faucet divided by destruction. So the higher the higher it is, it's not a perfect metric, but it's a good snapshot. Yeah, the higher it is, the more unhealthy the region is in terms of...
The less damage is happening, the more money is being extracted.
Yeah. This is not to say that the amount that it's printing was bad for the economy in terms of increasing the ISK supply, because it was.
No, it's just a show of relative relative value.
Yeah, so the green bar is just the ratio without any adjustments.
Oh, the line.
The blue bar is me taking out Citadel fights because they're once off. Because you see the big drop in, I think it is December 22 and Jan 23.
Oh, yeah.
That's when the, was it the Goons? Or that was the Nalvala fort fight. And then later on in, I think, July 22 was the Horde fort fight. And there was so much destroyed there that it skewed the data. So I've taken it out to say that, like, it is actually worse than it is. So when you zoom out a bit again before, we can see that the faucet drops, takes a nosedive. That's when they added the respawn time in. And you can see the ratio just shoots up because not a lot is dying because PvP activity in the region basically plummets. And I would say most of what does get destroyed in that wasn't to do with obs, so it's probably even less healthy than that. And then from there, we've had the round table to add things in, and I've added notes to see where we've added stuff in. And you can see this slow decline. So we went from a peak of about 11, and we're hovering around 5 now, which is kind of on par with what nullsec is in terms of their faucet printing to destruction. Which is, it's a good place to be. It's probably not perfect because nullsec is going to a lot more people, which is more healthy. The reason why it's more healthy is a lot of people getting slightly more wealthy leads to purchases that are taxed. Small amounts of people that get insanely wealthy leads to purchases that are not taxed. I will use me for an example. The Python I bought, the tax on that was 10,000 ISK. People who buy things on public contracts of very expensive things, there is a tax on that. It is lower than market tax, and there is a cap. So beyond about 10 bill, there is essentially no tax. So as far as this things are concerned, more people getting the same share of ISK is more healthy.
Yeah, because more gets taxed and leaving the actual the system than it is than those sorts of large kind of purchases that aren't really generally tend to be done on the market. So, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The other kind of thing, the way that I kind of see the sort of relative balance and balance as well is a large amount of money going to large amounts of people sort of in general across the entire game is less of an imbalance thing between various different groups. Whereas if you have like, a small subset of people getting huge amounts of money creates this sort of scenario where you have a group that is capable of has the asset capability of being able to do a lot of things to people who don't have that capability, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Potentially. The other, so the MER statistics, that bar graph and line graph, like a lot more understandable as to what's going on there, but like obviously your description and going through it is really, really helpful. The other one, it needs some explaining.
Is this the other graph? Yeah, I'll wait for it to pop on the. Just tell me when it's on the screen.
Yeah, it's on the screen.
So this is it is a very kind of fucked data.
It looks great, but like I need to figure out what the fuck it's
what
going
I'll
to be
do,
showing.
let me find the actual data this is showed from, because the reason why it looks like this is because you can drill down. Give me a second, and then I'll stream it. That'd be a better, and then you can put the stream on the Discord.
I'll see if I
on
can
the
put
stream.
this.
Sorry,
I'll see if I can. I'm not entirely certain how, but like I'll try. I'll figure out a way.
here we go.
It'll be one of these fuck it, we'll do it live kind of moments. So you know.
So this is kind of a back end. This is a huge amount of data that gets pulled together, kind of on demand by a guy from Khyber called Davey Ingram. So shout out to him. He's put a lot of work in for this.
See if I can't window capture this. This is going to look a bit fugly, so sorry about this. So apologies, everybody. This is probably looking a bit fucking dodgy, but this is the way. This is how we're doing it.
This is the way.
Today. At least today, anyway.
Just try and make it as large as you can so people can see, because otherwise they can't see the detail.
Yep. It is as large as I think I can make it for this.
Okay, right. Here is that same graph. So this is basically all the MER and Z-kill data amalgamated into the month of December.
Okay.
So this is ship activity in the region based on the amount of kills they get. So prior to the Revenant changes, you wouldn't see many cruisers aside from PvP outside of OBS. You would just see Marauders. This would be like 2/3 Marauders. So now what you see, this is almost primarily going to be OBS data. You see now that Marauders still make up a small amount. And if we drill into here, we can see the breakdown of Marauders.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
We can see that Kronos is quite a big chunk. You still see Vargas, Paladins, and Golems. Prior to Revenant, you would see almost entirely Vargas, then almost entirely Kronos Golem. Then it would swap back. It would keep going in this weird rock, paper, scissors thing.
Okay.
And now we're seeing more battleships. We're seeing a huge amount of Scorp Navy issues. This is the ICU Alliance heading that up. We are seeing a lot of Mashaks. BMD are bringing Lashaks, and Minmatar Fleet are bringing Nightmares, Armor Nightmares, which is pretty sick. And then we're seeing a lot of small things. So we're getting...
Yeah, but you're getting diversity, and that's the exactly thing, right?
So bring it back out. And in the cruisers, in the month before, it was almost entirely Cerberus. But now we're seeing a huge shift to Lokis and some Tengus. Next month, I see a lot more legions in the region. So I'm going to think Loki legions coming out. And then things like cruisers, we also see Katerses are coming back in the region. So Ishtar, Serb, Vagabond, Icky, Sack, these are all OBS fleet comps. These aren't PvP outside of the region. So we are seeing a huge amount more. And then all the small ones aren't really to do with OBS fleets. This is just like solo PvP.
When you say OBS fleets, obviously you mean the observation point kind of...
yeah, the observatory flashpoints, the ones that gives you the money, essentially.
Money-making kind of ship doctrines rather than actual like PvP.
And then we also have the shame board, people that are dying to EdenCon.
Love it.
So this is kind of what we're using to see how the now that we've added all 4 factions to the OBS, because before it was just the Amar, you would only fight the Revelation. You would only get Newts, TDs, and GDs in there. Now you've got everything. So now we can see how people are dying in the OBS, what's dying most. Like Lokis are dying the most because they're the most common one, and they have the lowest kind of EHP for the blingy ships. I'll get to the Warpost one. And here, this is the balance of the treads. So we can see the Moros is by far the most scary.
Yeah. Because
there's a lot of webs and scrams in there. And the Moros is just it's just a brick shit house. It will just, if it can track you, it's just going to fuck you up.
Oh, well, yeah.
So just behind that, we can see the Naglfar, the Revelation, and then coping in here with one kill somehow is it says it's the State Navy Phoenix, which is just
the Phoenix. Okay, right.
It's because it's a torp, it can't do wrecking shots, so it's just so easy to tank. So this is kind of like what's dying to the dreads? Are any dreads too powerful? And in this case, it's just the Navy Phoenix. And then this is one of them not getting the final blow. So the Navy Phoenix actually has 4 here because they didn't get the final blow. So they actually got a Nestor, a Kronos, an Exec, and a Raven. And then also, if they didn't get the final blow, if multiple things, they become Kaldari Navy Mjolnir Torpedo instead of the Navy Raven, the Navy Phoenix. So here's some extra ones they killed.
Very nice.
And then the most fun one is we added a no-no zone into the site. If you go beyond 50k from the center, you will get 6 angry towers that will shoot you. They have perfect tracking, and they start at 600 DPS and they go up to is it 10,200 DPS each or something?
Like that. That'll make short work of most things.
So this is people that are falling outside of that. So we see destroyers, we see salvage frigates, which are going inside before the site is run. They're aligning out. They're dying. And then another frigate comes in, sees a wreck, goes towards it, and also dies. So you get this
cascade of like wrecks towards.
So this was during November and December. There was a bugged site where if you half completed the site and downtime hit, it couldn't be ran. It was stuck in a bugged state.
Oh.
So people were going inside non-stop and just dying. We see a few people. So 2 Navy Megas, a Bargus, and a Nestor died. There was one in November where someone was orbiting. I think they were doing a training fleet. They were orbiting in Vagabonds and Lokis. They were orbiting the Dread. The Dread died. People didn't anchor up and they flew off in every direction. And half of these people just got immediately fragged by the wereposts.
Just this werepost just suddenly appeared and just started fucking nuking everybody.
Yeah, so it's pretty funny. The funniest thing was the day one of these wereposts coming out. People had already solved it and they were flying outside, not dying, by using my most hated ship in the game, the Monitor, because it's not a real ship.
It's
they were using that
designed for FCs to not die.
So, and the reason was its resist was so high, you basically had enough time before they ramped up to keep it alive. So I banned the Monitor and they made it so they actually swap targets the wereposts because we didn't add that in.
Oh god. Well, that's cool, dude. Like that is really interesting data visualization that you have there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, this is the stuff that I'm allowed to show because this is player generated data, not data that CCP has.
Now I think the question. I think one of the questions is do you think you should have this amount of data as a player, or should players have this level of data?
I think it's the ship has sailed with that.
Because
Z-Kill is so. If you got rid of Z-Kill, like people will complain. Some people.
I don't want to get rid of Z-Kill. Like my intention in bringing that question up isn't like let's kill Z-Kill. Like that's not really the idea at all. It's more along the lines of like, if you give a little bit of wiggle room, then people don't have like as much perfect data to be able to just see one person's system and know exactly the high likelihood of exactly what ship they have, exactly what kind of setup they're going to have in it, and all that kind of stuff.
There's definitely a really good case for the ESI automated data being pulled, being delayed by an hour, so there isn't instant information. That's a really good thing. I'm not against that. If someone wants to post it themselves, like instantly, that's on them. But automated pulls, which is the bulk of the data, could be
Okay.
delayed by an hour or even a day or something like that. I'm definitely not against that.
Cool.
It would
It's good to hear.
definitely make the game more dangerous. Like, especially things like Eve Gate Check is looking at real-time data almost of things being posted.
And I feel like that's a bit of an issue.
Yeah. I don't really use it anymore because I don't use gates. I don't need gates to travel because filaments are so absurdly strong.
You're all about the filaments, baby.
Filaments are so strong.
I said, like, I think fairly like years ago, I probably about 6 months after they after CCP initially kind of were like, hey, we brought these filament things out in, I think it was in Winter Nexus or Yule event or something like that.
It was an event,
and they were like, people really like these. I think we should carry on with them. And I was like, this is not going to end well.
That's filaments something I want to look at as well. One thing that Pochven is leeching from other areas of space, especially nullsec, is, do you remember the old the famous gate camp systems of like MTACO and Torinos? They're dead now because of Pochven, specifically the Pochven filaments. You can go from anywhere that isn't a wormhole to Jita in a 15-minute wait and 2 filaments.
Yeah,
like it's so absurdly safe. Yeah. So I do want to look at that because that is.
I'm glad that's on your radar. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, it's been on my radar for a long time because it also doesn't add anything to Pochven either, because you simply filament, cloak, wait 15 minutes, and outside of a very small amount of people know how to hunt people using those filaments, because the places you land are static inside Pochven, but there's so many of them that it is very much luck based.
Yeah, it's kind of almost the equivalent of the locations that the game tends to sort of create like nullsec anomalies. Like you'll every so often, like if it's a very high trafficked, high sort of high run system with anomalies in, every so often you end up sort of running into a completely fresh and new anom, and it already has, like, say somebody's it has like a mobile tractor unit already, like, in there that somebody had forgotten about or something like that, and you're like, how did that happen? And then you kind of realize, oh, this was an old anom site, and that just ends up getting reused.
Yeah.
So
but filaments, I don't know if I should do any stuff on the signal jack stuff, because people get their PvP from roaming and it's kind of required, but I'm definitely want to look at the Pochven ones.
Okay.
Mainly like is mainly going to be the extraction ones, because people can do which ones is it? The Perun extract and then extraction, or border and then extraction, are the ones where it will almost always land you in Kaldari space.
Okay.
But I don't know what form it's going to take, and like whenever CCP has an idea of what form it's going to take, at that point I can't talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
This data on screen as well is the red loot, the commodities that are generated in Pochven now. This is stuff that's been destroyed. So this stuff, that's 18 bill worth, which as a proportion of the faucet is like 4%. It's 0.4%. It's tiny.
Jesus Christ.
But it's getting destroyed. At least it's something. And people are hunting because 14,980 have dropped, and most of those I would assume has been taken.
You know what? I think the thing is, a lot of people don't realize, and a lot of people haven't been informed, that a lot of the value in Pochven ob sites are now in commodities. I think that may have flown under the radar with a lot of people. And I think, if more people were more informed about the fact that, like, if you intercept those sorts of ships, then you can get a fair amount of money from them, from the stuff that they have.
You could also steal it. We have had a few people. So when the tower dies, which is the final bit of the site, the tower is what drops the
commodities. Okay.
It drops exactly 400, which is 1.2 bill. And you can fit that in a frigate. So people have been attempting to go in as it dies to grab it. So it's essentially brought back seagulling in a non-bullshit form where you were 10,000 kilometers away and couldn't be.
Yeah, good point. Very good point.
Which is quite funny that no one noticed. Like the first thing that I did on CSM was immediately bring back the ability to seagull, but in a way that wasn't bullshit. And also, you can't cloak inside, so you can't sit next to it. And the wreck is huge, so you can't. You can cloak after the obs dies, but you can't cloak when you're near the wreck.
Oh, okay.
And you also can't walk when you're near the wreck.
You can't have a ship literally sitting there with like smart bombs ready to just nuke anything that does decide to like fly in because the wreck.
Oh, you can. Yeah, you can smart bomb. You can definitely
smart
bomb.
If the wreck is so large, then it's not as easy.
Oh yeah.
Is what I'm on. Yeah, that's what I was on about.
But yeah, but there have been some instances of people stealing it. I think Gabriel, who is Pochven local, he's died like 20 times and he's pulled it off like 3 times, but he's in stiletto, so I think that's more than paid for itself.
Easily, I'm certain of it. Nice. Well, thank you very much for that, dude. Like, I was not expecting like really cool kind of data visualizations and stuff. So that's really awesome, dude. Thank you for that.
Yeah, there's tons of stuff, but yeah, it's been I probably would have had more to talk about if the other stuff got in, but I just don't know when it's going to come in.
Hey, no, it's totally fine, dude. And we can kind of have a bit more of a conversation about this on a subsequent episode, because like, truth be told, I thought Dirk was going to be here for the entirety of it, but something happened to him. I don't know. I have no idea what happened in that regard, but I will have a chat with him and see if we can't kind of like reschedule a kind of an interesting conversation about both the delete Pochven versus delete multiboxing thing. And you've definitely put a case, for Pochven being much better than the
it's definitely better incursions now. Like incursions. Yeah. Now it should be delete Pochven, delete multiboxing, or delete incursions. And the answer is obviously delete incursions.
Incursions, yeah.
Like incursions hasn't changed in
God knows how long. Yeah.
10 years. God.
That's nuts. Yeah.
And just aside from ganking, which is basically the only thing keeping high-set gank is the only thing keeping any form of bling in incursions in check, even though the incursion runners are quite good at like moving stuff around without getting ganked now because they've had to adapt to it.
Yeah.
Like it's still, it generates so much. I know a lot of it is LP, but look at the faucet. Like the faucet was it 17 trill this month? And the vast majority of that is high sec. Like I don't know if I could calculate the ratio, if it's possible to calculate the ratio of destruction to the faucet, but I would guarantee it's probably the most unhealthy in the game, besides probably what's it called, home front sites.
It escapes me, but yes, 17.1 trillion is the current this month's corporate reward payout for Santa incursions. So yeah, significant amount.
But yeah.
Awesome, dude. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Sorry for the sorry for my voice. It's a lot better than it was last week. If certain words literally weren't audible, if I would speak them, like you couldn't hear them, my voice was that bad. It's
all right, dude. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you very much for that. I was going to do kind of a one last thing, but like, I think you've had a fair amount of one last things. My one last thing was very much along lines of, we may not have gotten to the kind of the topics that we wanted to this week, but we will do it next week. Or whenever Dirk actually is like capable of coming to the show. We'll figure that one out. But yeah. Thank you very much, everybody, for chilling with us, as it were.
Absolutely.
Eric, do you have anything final that you wanted to sort of say?
No, we're like 8 minutes over. I think I'm good.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. And thanks, Drake.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no worries. That was fantastic.
Whenever another patch drops, I'll be sure to make myself available.
I'll be
And
fantastic.
hopefully not have a vigil.
It's okay, dude. If you know situations like that occurs, then it's completely fine. But yeah, thank you everybody for chilling with us, and we will see you next week for another episode of Shoutout. See ya.
All right. See you, everyone.
Bye.